science fiction, in the movies. In Star Trek, we have a telepath, and then we have, in the X-Men, we have Jean-Luc Picard as Charles Xavier, and we have telepathy in science fiction. And then we have not just reading minds, but uploading memories. And in the Matrix, we have an entire world that's imaginary. Is reality itself an imagination? Let me ask you a question. Late at night when you're all alone, have you ever had this freaky idea that maybe you are the only real person in the universe, just like the Matrix? Everyone else is a fiction, and some God wants to know whether you're smart enough to figure out that you are the only real person in the world and everyone else is a dream. Ever had that idea? Raise your hand if you've had that idea. A few of you. You're crazy. You're the only one in the universe? That's crazy. I'm the only one in the universe. You guys are all part of my imagination. I'm in the Matrix. You guys are a test to see whether I'm smart enough to figure out that you are imaginary. Well, in the next slide, we will see the former governor of California having his memories of This is the movie Total Recall, when all your memories are fake. So what happens if you can unload not just real memories, but fake memories? And this is what happens to the state of California when you do something like this. And then we have Iron Man and exoskeletons. This is where we are going, the ability to connect the mind, a mind to an artificial arm, an artificial leg, just like in the movies. All this can now be done in the laboratory, and I'll show you pictures of this. And then we have the movie Surrogates. That is the ability to put your mind inside a robot. This is also a possibility that we'll talk about in today's lecture from the movie Surrogates. And then there is telekinesis, the ability to move objects with the mind. This is the movie Carrie, when she destroys her entire senior prom because of a mishap at a date. So the lesson here is, never date a telekinetic at the senior prom. And in Superman, we all know that Superman's father died, but in the latest movie, Superman's father is a computer program that is recreated as a hologram. And so the question is, can you live forever? Because consciousness is encoded in a computer program. This is something that we're taking very seriously now. Immortality. You live forever as part of a computer program. And then we have the question of mind without body. Is it possible, like in Star Trek, that we have the mind encapsulated in this sphere? My favorite movie when I was a kid was Forbidden Planet. And in that movie, we have an alien civilization called the Krell. So advanced that one day they turned on a machine which gave them total power over matter. The ability to recreate matter just by thinking about it. But then when they turned on that machine, at the height of their power, the Krell disappeared. Totally disappeared without a trace. What happened to that empire of the Krell? At the very end of the movie, they tell you. You see, when they turned on that machine that allows you to materialize anything you want, they went to sleep. And they had nightmares. All their nightmares became real, and they committed suicide. The lesson here is, if you ever become a god, do not fall asleep. So let's now talk about science. In the last 15 years, we've been able to probe the living brain as it thinks. On the left, for example, is the brain when you tell the truth. Not much happens on an MRI scan. The red part represents electrical activity, blood flow, and thinking. On the right is when your brain tells a lie. You see, when you tell a lie, first you have to know the truth. Then you have to create the lie. And then you have to calculate the consistency of the lie with all the other lies you've been telling all these years. That's a lot of brain power. Your brain wants to look like a Christmas tree here. So we can now actually see the brain thinking. And we know that the brain evolves with time. There are 3 layers of the brain. On the back, at the back of your head, is a so-called reptilian brain. It is the brain of reptiles. It is the brain that controls balance, food, hunger, territoriality, the basic reptilian brain at the very back. At the center of the brain, because evolution goes forward, at the center of the brain is the mammalian brain, the monkey brain, the brain of emotions. That's where emotions are located, at the very center of the brain. Then the far left, we have the human brain, the prefrontal cortex at the front of the brain. So brain scans are very interesting. They tell us that teenagers, in the teenage brain, the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, is not fully developed. That's why teenagers have problems with impulse control. So your parents are absolutely right in saying that you suffer from brain damage. The brain is not fully developed. And using brain scans, we can actually verify old wives' tales or show they're incorrect. One old wives' tale is that boys are better at 3-dimensional objects like throwing a baseball, and that women are better at reading character and reading emotions. And you can actually see that in brain scans. The origin could be genetic, it could be environmental, but you can actually see the difference in blood flow of the women's brain and the men's brain. Also, the old wives' tale says that men act stupid when they meet a pretty girl. Well, yeah, you see that blood flow is reduced in the brain. You can actually see that. If you don't believe me, ask Monica Lewinsky. So this is a question of analyzing the brain. Now, we've known since the 1950s that if you electrify parts of the brain, then you will move parts of your body. So there is a map called the Penfield map, a map of the surface of the brain which controls different parts of the body. So on the right, we see that eyesight. Eyesight occupies a large part of the surface of the brain. Also your mouth, because you have to eat. So our Penfield map shows that eyesight is very important for the brain. Now, if I did a Penfield map of a dog, the nose would be huge because dogs use most of their mental power to decipher odors. If I had the Penfield map of a bat or a dolphin, then sonar and the ears would be extremely large. So we see that different animals had different kinds of consciousness. Also, the brain is a radio transmitter. So by putting electrodes around the brain, for years we've noticed that you can actually see thoughts in the brain. Not very well. MRIs are much better. But using EEG sensors, you can begin to decipher human thought. Now, if you don't want to look like a refugee from Star Trek, now it's become sexy. In the upper left, we now have EEG sensors by which you can control computer games. You can now play computer games by thought. And in the upper right, in Japan, this is a big fad in Japan, you put on these ears, and when you are excited and interested, your ears pick up. When you are bored, your ears go, like that. So if you're at a party and you try to talk to somebody, and all the ears go, it means you're going to go home by yourself. And then one day when we professors give a talk, and all the ears go, eh. Then we know you're boring the hell out of our class. Okay? And on the lower left, you can now dispense with the cursor. You can now mentally control the cursor on a computer screen. This has enormous impact on gaming and eventually become a fashion statement. Fashion models will begin to manipulate objects mentally, and it will be fashionable to be wired up mentally. And think of the practical implications. Stephen Hawking is a colleague of mine, and he is totally paralyzed. He's lost control over his fingers, and he can no longer signal except by blinking. Well, scientists hooked up his glasses. Look at his right frame. His right frame has a sensor on it, which is basically a radio receiver, picks up his brain signals, a laptop deciphers them, and he can now type. Typing by thinking. This is possible today. And beyond that is the ability to move objects with the mind. This is enormously powerful for people who are paralyzed. We can now put a chip in their brain, connect the chip to a laptop, and these people can now move the cursor on the screen and play video games. This gentleman here is totally paralyzed. He is a vegetable. He cannot communicate with his loved ones. He's totally isolated from the world. And in Brown University, they put a chip in his brain. They know exactly where in the brain is connected to his arms. And they've connected that part of his brain to a laptop. This person can now surf the web, play video games, read email, write email, do crossword puzzles, operate his wheelchair, operate his household appliances. Anything you can do on the web, he can do as well. And he is totally paralyzed. This woman here is also paralyzed, and scientists at Brown University have connected her brain to a mechanical arm. And so she can now move her mechanical arm to scratch her nose, to sip Coca-Cola, or whatever she wants. I mean, think about it. Christopher Reeve played Superman in the movies. He was this glamorous figure who could soar into outer space, but he suffered from a spinal cord injury that left him a vegetable. Unfortunately, he died before this technology became available. And now, the military has taken this task and made mechanical arms that are guided by the brain. We have thousands of people injured in Iraq and Afghanistan. They cannot move arms or legs. They have missing organs. The military, through Johns Hopkins University and other universities, have now created mechanical arms that are nearly identical to real arms. And these arms are connected to the brain, bypassing the spinal cord. Just by thinking, you can high-five, shake hands, do almost anything a normal person can do with a mechanical arm. And then, a mechanical body. These are exoskeletons, just like in Iron Man comics, the Iron Man movies, the ability to connect the mind to a mechanical exoskeleton. But why stop there? Some people think that one day in the future, we'll soar like Superman or soar like Iron Man. That is, have an exoskeleton that is connected to the mind via radio or via electrodes. And these are surrogates. Just like in the movie, Surrogates starring Bruce Willis. We now have robots in Japan. Robots in Japan controlled mentally by EEG sensors. Sensors that can decode brainwaves and move robots with them. And one day, you will do this in the classroom. Surrogates in the classroom. This is a surrogate. You are sick in bed with the flu. You see your teacher in your laptop, your teacher's face. Your teacher, on the other hand, sees your surrogate sitting where you sit and sees your face inside the computer screen. Isn't science wonderful? You'll never play hooky in the future again. Your teacher will always know where you are because of surrogates. So you're never going to be able to sneak out and watch the Yankee game. They'll know exactly where you are because of surrogates. Science is so useful. And why stop at mechanical arms? You're now looking at the future of the internet. You see, the eye is an extension of the brain. So why not have the internet in your contact lens? This is an internet contact lens. And who were the first people to buy internet contact lenses? College students taking final examinations. In the future, you will blink and see all the answers to the final right there in your contact lens. And who is the second person to buy these internet contact lenses? President Barack Obama. So he doesn't have to have these damn teleprompters giving his speech. And who's the third person to buy these internet contact lenses? Vice President Joe Biden, so he doesn't say anything goofy. Right there in his contact lens. And who's the fourth person to buy internet contact lenses? Husband and wives, because you can connect their contact lenses together, and the wife can see what the husband is seeing, and vice versa. So the next time the husband goes out shopping and buys the wrong things, every time the husband buys the wrong things, the wife will see what the husband is seeing and say, no, 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 don't buy that. No, 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 don't buy this. And so we are now going to be, quote, living in the matrix. Not only having the power of Iron Man, but the ability to recreate reality almost in our own image. So, the future may be surrogates and exoskeletons. What will we do with them? One is to explore outer space. Going to the moon is dangerous. Going to Mars is even more dangerous. About half the space probes that we send to Mars never make it. I repeat, about 50% of the probes we send to Mars never make it to the red planet. Yet there are thousands of people who volunteer to do a Mars mission. And think of firemen, policemen who have to go into dangerous situations. If we have surrogates or exoskeletons, we don't have to go into dangerous situations. Look at Fukushima, Japan.